Hey, deserving listeners, you are a deserving listener, truly. Deserving of love and care and attention and fun and creativity and safety and education and all the things. To be yourself, spontaneity. You, I'm talking to you. Let's watch.
100% in before you would do the same. Do you feel like you ever really told Joey exactly how you were feeling?
No, that's a good question. I never said, I love you, Joey. Joey also never said, I love you, Monica. I also wasn't shown the I love you.
Yeah, I didn't react to this, I don't think. But after the wedding, one of them said, or no, Joey said that she had never said, I love you. And he wasn't, from my memory, saying it as a hurtful thing. I think he was saying, I just don't know if we were really connected. That was the vibe that I was getting. And she is confirming that. She's saying, yeah, I never said I love you, but also he never said he loved me. And I never felt that he loved me. And that's definitely the way that it looked. Yeah, they looked like they had a cordial, fun, casual relationship. It also sounded like there wasn't much physical affection. It's possible that there was very, very little. There were little conversations about that occasionally around the wedding and before. And they talked about it at their big date at the Arboretum. And man, that Arboretum was so beautiful. And what an awesome dinner. Now, they had to sit on like a stone wall because there wasn't a place for, I think, honestly, looking back, I think that date, that table setup was for the best background for the cameras, as they're filming them. But there must have been a better place for just a small table and two chairs. They're like sitting on this, essentially like a stairwell or something. But anyway, beautiful, beautiful setting. And she was saying, I'd like some more affection. And the way he responded agreed with like, yeah, I have been insufficient in that way. But there was no commitment from him. And what I said a while back was, you'd think if he loved her, he would pop up in that moment, say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And let me hug you right now and kiss you. I love you so much. Or I have a problem with that. And definitely, I don't want to lose you. Just that's how you normally feel in that situation. So, yeah, that's the way it looked. And I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if there's anything to say about that. I think, it's normal on the show to go to the altar and declare those feelings there. But I think it's moral to say beforehand, right? Like last season, so many people got engaged and broke up before the altar. You had Ramses and Marissa that broke up, Nick and Hannah, Steven and Monica, but that was sort of dictated from Steven's behavior. Tim and Alex, Leo and Brittany, I suppose, in a sense, but not really. And all of them didn't go to the altar because, with Ramses and Marissa, they, imagine if Ramses had just put his head down and survived until the altar and then broke up with Marissa there. Well, I think Ramses, at least from my take, is that he had enough backbone and enough differentiation, enough empathy to not do that to someone. Or maybe even a difficult time faking anything, You can make your own call on that. With Nick and Hannah, we could say that Hannah could have easily put her head down as well and just survived another couple weeks or a week and got to the altar and said no to him in front of everyone. But she didn't. And I wonder, how do I phrase this? I think I guess the topic sentence is that she either was similar in that she just didn't want to do that to Nick, but she didn't seem shy about hanging him out to dry. I would think the topic sentence would be that she just had reached her limit of annoyance with him and just couldn't. She seemed like a fairly spontaneous person, and I don't think she could handle it, and this isn't necessarily a bad quality of just, if I don't like someone, I can't fake it. So I think that was it. Stephen and Monica, that was dictated. Tim and Alex, Tim could have put his head down, but decided not to. So, we could say that he should have told her earlier, but a lot of people don't do that, just for my own sake, I just feel like looking back at other seasons. Clay said no at the altar, right? He could have said no earlier, but I think he was genuinely on the fence, honestly. Jimmy told Chelsea a few days before for the altar. Laura and Jeremy imploded because Jeremy cheated. Brittany and Kenneth had a conversation where they had decided that they just weren't into each other or something. Stacy said no to Izzy at the altar. Taylor and JP broke up before the altar. Aliyah and Uche, they never really gotten engaged, right? Johnny and Chris, they weren't really featured. Paul went to the altar and said no to Micah. Anyway, okay, yeah. Monica describes it pretty well, and I would expect her to be that differentiated to be able to describe it that way.
You shouldn't have to tell a fiance to want to touch you and to want to be by you. That's very degrading. Watching it back was very, very difficult.
Okay. And maybe Joey's a jerk face, but generally speaking, people have different preferences. Some people like to touch a lot and some people don't. And if you find yourself in a relationship and you feel depleted and neglected, then for sure address it. But if someone isn't doing that, it's not like they're degrading. She said the word degrading, right? It's hurtful, but it's not inherently demeaning or degrading or hostile or something. It could be, but now from her perspective, she really at the very least, I don't know if she would have said yes to him at the altar necessarily, but she did say no. But if he were more I think actually, if I just think about the whole thing, especially in the beginning of them at the getaway and whatnot, I think if things had gone even remotely well, if he actually did love her and was interested in her, maybe he wasn't touchy-feely as much as she wanted, but there was at least some glint in his eye that he loved her, I think she absolutely would have said yes. I think so. And I think they'd be married today. So for her to be hurt is totally understandable. So she was the one to say no at the altar, but she was the one who was dumped, really, It just dawned on her later, right? And she has every right, or she's completely rational to be hurt. And, maybe angry. It's normal to be angry, at least a little bit, when we're hurt. And a year after a breakup, a major breakup like this, is it normal to have some particular points of view that 5 years later you'll have attenuated a little bit? Yeah, it's normal. Because
it was a slap in the face and it was embarrassing a little bit. I was embarrassed at myself.
Yeah. And then you think about the dynamic in the family, which could go far beyond what we saw with the sister. I told you so. Look at you, And is it normal to be embarrassed? Yeah. I just can't imagine from various different angles. I can't imagine how embarrassing it could be, So that's all normal and rational and relatable.
For not seeing that this...
Now, I want to be clear. Should she be embarrassed? No. She should. There's nothing... She didn't do anything embarrassing. She didn't do anything cringeworthy. She didn't do anything bad. She loved a man and wanted to marry him, and then at the last minute figured out, oh, he doesn't want to be with me. That's, she gave it a shot, and she didn't make a bad choice, And I think there's a good possibility that Joey in the pods was very much into her, enough anyway. And for whatever reason, once they were together in 3D, it just didn't click. The chemistry wasn't there, or it faded or something. And, that happens.
How can I open up and give someone that I love you if you weren't showing me that and you weren't treating me with love?
I do kind of feel like we could never get out of the friend zone. And that was kind of how I felt. And the big reason for me was her sister, because family is my number one value. And when we talked in the pods, Monica said, you know, my sister's my best friend.
Now, could he believe this? And could this be truth? You know, could he be not lying in this moment? Yeah. But there's a possibility that he's doing what a lot of people will do, and they don't know how to just, because you know, I would have, I don't know, but I would be more apt to accept what his take here is if he were to say, yeah, no joke, I was completely in love with her. And when we were at the getaway, completely in love with her, it was overwhelming, as I'm guessing it would be for all of us, because everything's happening so fast. And then at some point when we were, 4 weeks in or something, I just thought, am I gonna marry this person? Is this like the one? And I was terrified that she wasn't the one, because I thought she was the one and I wanted her to be the one. But I had this suspicion that there just wasn't that thing, that sort of oomph or that in love feeling. And a couple weeks before the wedding, I just thought that I don't think it's there. But I was terrified of that reality, and I was avoiding intimacy because I don't know, I was just so confused. I didn't know. And she's right that I didn't show her that I loved her, but I did love her in the beginning. And I just want to be clear about, I feel like no one ever says that. I feel people don't even say that in real life. When people are breaking, again, she said no at the altar, but this was different because he was ultimately the no, right? That in real life, people will fall out of love and they look for reasons to accuse the other person of being obviously not someone that they should love, when it's a very dubious argument. You can just say, I have no idea why. I could guess as to why, but I don't think those are accurate. None of my guesses seem to fit. All I know is that at a certain point, I really liked her, but I didn't want to spend the rest of my life with her. I think she's a great person, and I'd love to be friends, and I loved hanging out with her, but I just didn't feel like she was my soulmate. I don't know how to put that into words. And I feel like a lot of people would attack that person and say, like, well, why? You need to have a reason. And I would say, no, they don't. Their love is unknowable. It's undescribable, right? And any description, any bullet point justification for why someone loves someone is just a justification, the feeling, and so many times we'll fall in love with people and think, why am I in love with this person? Well, because that's why all the poems and all the love songs and all the rom-coms and all the art, that's all trying to describe love. In a lot of art is trying to describe love, and it lends itself to that abstraction, that elevation, that divine nature, right? And you can't describe divine things.
And I'm like, awesome, my sisters are my best friends. And that was like a big connection for us. And then when I got to the real life, I was like, oh my God, this is way different than I expected, way different. And so when I wasn't accepted, I think that definitely took a toll on me.
I mean, it might, again, this be his conscious story, sure. But I don't think that this would, if we could somehow scientifically measure his brain at the time, I don't think this was the main factor. Because you would just imagine, and I'm guessing that Monica will say this, that, wait, so you were totally in love with me, and you wanted to marry me, but because my sister, who was briefly not accepting, and really she was yelling at me, but anyway, and then she apologized. Because of all that, you didn't want to marry me? So you still are completely in love with me? Like, what's going on?
And definitely probably kept me in that zone, looking back at it all now for sure.
It feels a little bit like a chicken or egg situation, right? Like you're kind of blaming her sister for why you weren't able to elevate your relationship to another level. The counter argument to that is maybe her sister saw the lack of commitment to another level and was calling you out.
I don't think so. I think the sister just had a thing. I don't think there's any way the sister, well, who knows? I mean, they spent a whole evening together, so maybe she did see something, but I think there's a pretty good likelihood that the sister would have said that regardless. So, because the way that Joey presents is a lot of the things you're looking for in your sister's husband: openness, friendliness, lightness, kindness. You know, he was, at least in the edit, doing all those things. And we can imagine, right, his golden retriever energy. So if there wasn't a ton of affection, in fact, you know, you would maybe get a little weirded out if they were all kind of like this at a family thing. So yeah, I don't know, but I think the sister just kind of had a thing.
And going through this experiment to see if you want to say yes to a life together, not gathering information if you even like me. Like watching back some of this footage, like I'm struggling. I'm having strong, hard conversations with loved ones. Like it's very emotional. And he's just jumping around and throwing the football.
Again, she is still in a state of remorse or of grief and loss. She's hurt. It's a massive blow that a year later you would still feel. So I see an expression on his face, and I hope what follows is him saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I couldn't rise to the occasion for whatever reason, whether it was because of your sister or just me or something. I'm just so sorry that I hurt you. It pains me to have done that, you know.
And laughing and joking, and like I wanted to reach through the screen and like shake this girl that is me of like, girl, he's not into you. Like he's clearly not interested. Like how can you not see this?
Again, totally normal. I think a lot of people in her shoes, me included, would have that feeling. I think she's beating herself up a little too much. You know, there's some kind of thing there. I don't know if this is some outcome from the family dynamic that was exhibited by the sister. I can't know. You know, I'm just seeing these little tiny details and trying to draw connections.
A lot happens in a year, and you find a lot of things out in the year that you wish you would have known in the moment, and the truth always comes out, and I've been hearing a lot.
And I want to say something to everyone about this topic, because I don't know if I've had a chance to, that if you were dumped, do not beat yourself up. I mean, every dumping is different reasons. You know, if you got dumped because you cheated 100 times, then maybe look at that. But if you had a typical breakup and someone fell out of love with you and dumped you, there's nothing wrong with you. Full stop. People fall out of love. Think about for yourself. Someone liked you more than you liked them. That's all it comes down to. You know, we call it love, like whatever. There were times when someone liked you more than you liked them, and you had to let them down at some point in the relationship, right? Whether it was the first date or the 10th year or whatever. And when someone doesn't like you as much as you like them, it's no harm, no foul. There's nothing wrong with you. You didn't do anything. It's not embarrassing. You know, what's the idiom? I'm terrible with idioms. You can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. That's not the one I was thinking of. You better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. Hey, so it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. Case by case basis, you know, most of the time. So do not do what she is doing to herself. Don't do that to yourself. It's normal to have a period of time where that's the impulse, but don't stay there. Don't land there. Don't get stuck there.
Came together. I found this out a month ago. That next day or very, very shortly after, mind you, we are still engaged. I have a ring on my finger. I'm sleeping next to this man. He slid into one of the other cast members' DMs after he saw her. And I still don't know exactly what was said. And to be honest, I don't care.
Well, wouldn't you care? Because if he's sliding into someone's DMs, if he's DMing a lot of the cast, then it would matter what he said. Now, maybe she heard the gist. I'm curious as to what he said exactly. Okay, but if we go with this, and I trust Monica for the most part, if we go with this, then yeah, yikes, what the fuck? Who? Well, it doesn't really matter. But, well, it kind of matters. But what? Yeah, that is some dirtbag shit right there, and stupid. Is this another Steven?
It could have been, how was the weather? I don't care. It's the act of doing that where I'm here trying to get you to want me. It's a slap in the face. It's disrespectful. And even just a normal marriage situation that their wedding is in a week and you found out your fiance was texting, messaging in somebody else.
Now, of course, if he is solely, if he's not blasting text to all the cast like, how's everyone doing? And he's like directly trying and sounds like maybe there was an ongoing conversation, then and it's innocent, then you should inform your partner at the very least, because if it gets out, then it could be concerning, right? So that's one thing. But I'm hearing from Monica that she doesn't know what was said and is assuming that it was, up to no good, but we don't know, right? I wonder if he'll respond. But it's hard to imagine a scenario in which someone in Joey's shoes would be having an ongoing, or even just reaching out, because that is kind of odd, right? To directly contact one of the other cast members from the other side of the pods at any point, right? So I guess it would be suspicious that you would do that. If you're going to do that, then it's probably because you're interested, right? And, I mean, we don't know. Joey didn't give us much to grab onto, so I don't know. I don't have any indication of it being otherwise, right?
Else's inbox that he used to see and have potential feelings for. If I would have known that in the moment, I would have walked away. And I feel like that was stolen from me. So I would like to know what that was about.
Yeah.
Who were you?
It wasn't stolen. You said no at the altar. You did walk away. And, we know that the overall thing is that he was going to say no anyway, right? But you did. You said no at the altar and he walked away. You can pat yourself on the back for that.
DMing.
Yeah, I reached out to a few people after because I like to check in on people. And I felt like we had a lot of different good connections in the pods. And I just reached out and
To
said,
who?
to Madison.
To Madison.
And I was like, hey, it was good seeing you. Liked your pink hair. And that's what I said.
Okay. He's not helping by saying connect the word connection. Did we know that he had a connection with? No, I only have him in the edit anyway. Liked Monica and Madison. So he is on paper saying that other ladies that he had a connection with, he reached out to them because he had a connection with them. And he's like, I don't know, I'm just flirting with people that I had a romantic feelings for while I was in the process of not having any romantic feelings for my fiance. I don't know, I'm just a golden retriever. What? You're not, do you know what you're saying?
Yeah.
Who were you DMing?
Yeah, I reached out to a few people after because I like to check in on people.
So he says that, I like to check in on people. Okay. Did you check in on guys?
And I felt like we had a lot of different good connections.
Felt like we had a lot of... Now, there's totally a world in which at the core of it, he executed this in a really stupid manner. But, like when they have the all-cast party, it's totally normal to be like, oh, that's what you look like. Hey. And it would be rude, really, I think, to not acknowledge the person that you did have a lesser connection with, right? To just be like, I'm not going to talk to that person. Or it would be overly traditional or overly emphasizing infidelity constantly around every corner. It's like, we're all here. We're all adults. So it could be that, but in the midst of everything, it certainly is, it doesn't look good, right? And the way he's describing it, and if he had told Monica, by the way, I'm thinking about reaching out to the others because it just feels weird not to, but I won't if you don't want me to. But I was, I now see some of these other people but when you say it out loud, it's like, why would you do that? you can wait, right? Wait until after you're married. I mean, wait until after your relationship with Monica is secure, or wait until you break up with Monica, right? If that's the plan, if you're thinking that's where it's headed. Like, what do you think's going to happen? Well, if I'm going to break up with Monica, I might as well get some feelers out there. I don't know.
Date a little bit in the pods, but I felt like it was more of a friendship vibe. We just couldn't get there romantically, so then we just never really saw each other again. And then, I show up to the meetup with pink hair. On the next day, I just see a message from Joey. And he was like, loving the pink hair, wish we could have talked more.
So first things first,
So it could be at least consciously innocent for him, but he's not making a good argument for it. And of course, if you're Monica, you would wonder what was going on. And I don't think she would be wrong. But there's a possibility that Joey was not intending on cheating, wasn't hitting on them, wasn't trying to get something going, really, at least consciously. So, yeah. But again, why wouldn't you tell Monica? And it's such a irresponsible, at the very least, thing to do, or shady or deceptive thing to do, right?
You acknowledge that would be inappropriate given the scenario you were in with?
Looking back, I guess. I was just trying to be friendly, and I can see now that bothered Monica.
Shortly after.
Just trying to be, again, if it was that thing, that impulse of just like, hey, we connected, but the way that Madison describes it, she's like, yeah, we didn't have a connection. We were friends. It's because what happens is after the first couple days of them speed dating, they start to narrow it down. And so it sounds like Joey was in Madison's short list, maybe like the final 5 or something. And mid-week, 10 days in the pods, for Joey, it felt like, Madison is more in the romantic running. And for Madison, she was more like, well, maybe, but probably not. And for him, when he sees her, he feels like he wants to just acknowledge, just to be friends, and doesn't want to be rude, doesn't want to, because, if you're in that scenario at the all cast party, you could feel like you're being a dick if you don't have at least some kind of gesture towards that person, because you did, connect in the pods in some way. It could feel dismissive. It's just like, well, I'm not even going to talk to that person, screw you. So he could have, but again, why wouldn't you tell Monica? All you have to do is, it would be obvious, right?
The wedding. There was a time where we were hanging out all the time. We were texting all the time. I was helping him finish his apartment. I was going to family functions. Like, we were acting like we were in a relationship.
Did you progress to being physical in that time you were just?
Couple times, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Just once.
Well,
just once.
Couple times. And we were in this.
Wait, what does that have to do with anything? Did you progress to physical? What is, we would assume, but also it wouldn't really matter because they're engaged either way. So is the implication like, wait, so he's texting with Madison and then he had sex with you? Oh, like what? Like, we don't know what the intention was. It doesn't look good, right? There's a possibility, but it's not a slam dunk. It's certainly, I mean, okay. I don't know. I'm not going to draw any conclusions. It could be something extremely shady. Like, there's a scenario where he's attracted to Madison and is actually trying to get something going. Maybe he's like generally flirty and he's putting out a lot of feelers and is hoping, because he knows that he's not going to be with Monica and he doesn't know if he's going to break up before the altar or not, but he knows it'll be over at some point, and it's just like, well, want to maybe see if something could get going there because we did have a connection and maybe we could date. That thought would be okay, but you would want to wait until well after the altar to contemplate or to begin the groundwork of that, you know what I mean? And then he reaches out. It's such a weird scenario, the Love is Blind format, the way that they are pressured or influenced is probably a more accurate term. Because we know that they're not required to go to the altar, but we also know that there's at least a culture that they are indoctrinated into from the beginning, that you're supposed to see it. There's these certain phrases that they're given, right? Like another thing that they are frequently told, but not required, but the culture is there, is they're supposed to wait until later in the 10 days to decide between multiple connections. If they have two connections, they're supposed to give both connections a chance. Those messages are given to the cast members. Now, those messages could be well-meaning, but they could also, in addition, be self-serving to production because there's more chance for drama, But, it could be good advice. And they know that they absolutely can break up with someone earlier than that in the pods if they want to. They know that they're not required. But, there's just little subtle influences, little messages. And so the reason why I say this is that under normal circumstances, what would Joey have done? Would Joey have broken up with Monica and then sent the DM? Or would he not have, right? Is he just generally this way? Is he generally a dirtbag? Was it even a dirtbag thing? And it's just hard to know. Either way, he lied by omission for sure, right? Because the thing I would ask him if he were like, I didn't lie by omission, would say, in the moment, if I were to go back in time, get a time machine, and ask you as you were about to send that DM, or after you sent that DM to Madison, if I were to say, do you think Monica would care that you sent that DM? And he couldn't say no to that question. He would have to say, at the very least, she might, right? And then I would say, and if you don't tell her, or even if you did, do you think it would at least kind of concern her, maybe hurt her? And again, he could not say no to that, right? He'd have to say maybe at the very least. Hopefully he would say, yeah, she might be really hurt by it. Then I would ask, what the fuck are you doing then? Meaning that he knows that she would want to know. And he knows that if she knew, it would bother her. And that's why he's lying by omission. He would have to have no experience in the world and basically be a child to not understand that, or at least to not suspect that that might be true. So he did lie by omission, which is not okay. All right, well, let's adjourn there for now. Tune in next time when I continue watching the reunion. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.